All right, all right, all right. What's up, everybody? We are live. Well, I hope so. Let me know if you hear me. How is it going, everybody? Hopefully, you guys hear me well. Just give me a thumbs up, somebody, please. So, thanks for coming by today. Um, all right, cool. All right. You guys still hear me? Maybe I muted myself. My bad. You guys hear me now? Some technical difficulties. All right, all right. Whew. All right, we good, we good. All right. So I'm getting a quick error here. Hold on. My bit rate. Uh, Let me see. What's up, everybody? Everything good? Everything good? All right, you guys hear me fine? Cool. 6 p.m. sharp. I'm Glauco. Thanks for joining us here. Let's get started. So, hold on, I just got another error here on OBS. My bad. Let me just go over the chat real quick. I need to learn how to, do the chat thing here on screen so we can talk. I guess it has to be Twitch. Anyways, so all right, so yeah, blah blah blah. Everybody, hi, crystal clear, cool. Are you planning a character course? I have some, course, workshops, masterclass, all of that stuff planned for next year. So stay tuned for more on that. Will the live be recorded? Yes, the live will be recorded and will stay here on YouTube forever. All right. All right, excellent connection. Woo! All right, we going. We good. All right, cool. So let me just jump back to my screen here. This guy. Sorry, guys. Last week was much smoother. There you go. You guys see my screen now, right? Should be good. Should be good. All right. Cool. All right. You guys see Photoshop? Please tell me that you see Photoshop. Yes. Okay. Sorry. All right. Cool. Yeah, I lost my. Anyways, whatever. I'll trust you guys. So everything is going fine here. Cool. All right. Let me do this. Sweet. Okay. So this is Photoshop. I have a couple references here from Graphic Studio. So let me just give these guys a shout out. So this is one of the packs that I bought for studying, and I have probably like multiple packs of these guys. So totally recommend go to their website or their Gumroad page, Graphic Studio. They have loads and loads of really good photo references and And the second thing I want to just give a shout out is PureRef. So if you guys don't know what PureRef is an application that you can just slap a bunch of images all together. So basically here, if I open my PureRef, this is, you can organize files, and then you can keep these this image browser here, or this canvas, on top of other screens, and it's really good to kind of do some sort of like mental board of all of your references. So today I have all of these references here. I put those in Photoshop because I'm going to do a little bit of drawing, and I also have a little bit of a Bridgman here if that comes to mind. If there's something here from Bridgman that I want to show you guys, I got a couple images here. But so I'm gonna have this on my left screen here, so at least you guys know what I have. So let me just move that to my left screen, and I will have ZBrush here on my frontal screen, and this is Photoshop. So how do we start something like this, right? I picked this piece for a specific reason, because it's not one of the craziest and hardest ones to pull off and to study, but also it's not that simple. So first things first, I want to be looking at the position of the pelvis. So there is a tilt of the pelvis, so this is called the contrapposto, right? So you have like, you're standing on, like, putting all of the weight, your center of mass, in just one leg. But just to keep things very simple, I like to just look at the main structures. So looking at torso, hips, knees, and feet and head position, so those big masses. So I noticed that my hips are tilted, you can actually see here, and there's also like a little bit of like a tilt. If we look from the left side or the right side here, there is this tilt here too. So it's important for us to notice all of these tilts and this orientation, right? So this is tilted forward a little bit, right? So if we just draw a box here, this is gonna be a box like this. So this is very important, because that's how we're gonna, and I'm exaggerating here, right? But you get the idea. So this is actually tilting forward, and it's important for us to be able to really think in 3D space what is actually happening. Same with the torso, right? So if we simplify the torso into just one big box, this is kind of, there is a little bit of a tilt here as well, right? And you can actually see like, and this guy has a really cool anatomy, because his chest is kind of very lined up with the ribs here in the front. So it actually creates this very cool squarish separation, right? So from the back view, you can also see there is this sort of a curvature here. So although the elbows, or like the shoulders are here, if we look at the structure of the rib cage, it's more like this, right? And we can also think a little bit about movement. So that's kind of how I'm gonna be thinking here, a little bit of the movement. And although I'm using boxes, once we start going to ZBrush, or if I'm drawing or painting, or just sculpting in general, I definitely want to pay attention to movement. So okay, so I notice the reorientation of the big masses, right? And then the head is kind of straightforward here. So the head is just kind of pushed forward a little bit. You can see from the angle of the neck, and so the second thing I want to pay attention, and I like to look at, is just the overall gesture of the piece, right? Like the overall movement. So I like, when I look at this piece, thinking about composition or just gesture as a whole, I see these big forms here, right? So you have like this beautiful gesture coming from the head and kind of laying on the feet. So this sort of like movement here, and then here we are actually continuing that movement, and then you got this piece here kind of going this direction, which creates this whole sort of flow in the image. Here in this view, there is not much movement, but there is still a little bit of movement. So this one, it's not like the main line of action of this piece, although for looking as a reference, you can also start connecting some of these movements here, or these lines here, because this will help us solidify when we are looking and comparing our model in 3D space. And it's important to, you know, really try to exaggerate and kind of distill the max out of all of these references, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm thinking on all of these references here. So that's kind of where my eyes are when I'm looking at this here. Very large curve here, right? So again, very important to kind of see some of these movements for us to translate. And you can see like I'm kind of ignoring some of the arms in most of these, but we will be looking at these negative spaces here. We will be looking at the silhouette. We will be looking at a lot of different things, but, you know, try to simplify things. So just looking at big structures first, and then, you know, another big one here from head to tip of the toes, right? And then again, continuing, this is a beautiful edge or sort of like harsh angle here, which creates movement, right? Like this sort of harsh angle creates separation between the subtle curvature here, the flow of these lines, these beautiful curves with a little bit of like a harsh edge, which gives you structure, right? Like usually, you know, hard edges will give you structure, and round forms will give you flow and beauty and smoothness and all of that. Cool. All right, so let's just jump into ZBrush and start posing this. I will try a different approach. And last time I did an exercise like this, actually it was here live with you folks. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I started with just very small, like simple primitives like boxes. Today I'm gonna try starting with a mannequin. I don't know how that will go, because I used this mannequin maybe once in my life, but I keep seeing a lot of people using these mannequins and, you know, Z spheres and all of that, and I feel like, you know, I feel like trying different techniques. So why not? So, you know, this comes with the light box here. Just click light box, and then it's one of the Z projects that you can get started. And let me see. Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? Hi, nice seeing you, folks. Hello, hello, hello. All right. So I have symmetry activated. Obviously, I'm just gonna try to look at main proportions. So I have a plane here too. Let me just take off this plane. Just want to look at the main proportions here, like for a second. I think this could be a little bit, you know, maybe a little bit different. Let me just kind of spread out these arms a little bit more, just to make it easier for us to pose. If we think about the relationship from the hips to, you know, the great trochanter, which is the wide part of the hips, or, you know, where, you know, I where the legs actually start. This seems fine. I feel like these knees are a little bit too, yeah, this feels a little bit better. All right, let's just kind of work on these arms here. And obviously we will be tweaking all of that later. I just want to get some sort of like a nice, good start. All right, and I'm just gonna get these guys here. Okay, so this feels a little bit better. Let's take out symmetry here. So now I can just kind of move things by myself. So I like starting with, how do I move this entire piece here? I actually don't know. That's funny. Anyways, I can just move this plane down. Cool. So let me see here. Trying to keep up with all of the the messages on the chat as well. Cool. Yeah, for all of you doing the same exercise, that's pretty cool. Maybe in the future I can find a way of sharing the same references as well, or because I don't know, right? Like I purchased this on a license, so obviously I cannot distribute this to you. But if you guys want to go ahead and purchase these images too, and follow along, or find different images, maybe in the future I can put some stuff together and we can all sculpt together, and maybe we can share the results, stuff like that. I'll think about that, but that's cool. Yeah, join along and let's have some fun and do some sculpting. Cool. All right, so yeah, let's just get started. So I'm gonna start with the hips. Just kind of try to find a balance here. Whoops. All right, there you go. So I think I can. Obviously, I don't know how to use this thing very well. Okay, cool. I can just grab these guys. Cool. All right, so let's just move these guys down, and then this, and then this has to move forward a little bit. You know what? Like, whatever. I'm just gonna go freehand because it's much easier for me to just kind of pose without having to worry too much about, you know. So I can just kind of go by feel. All right, so we're gonna do this here. And I want to, remember that whole sort of weight on this leg. So I definitely want to make sure I'm capturing, that curvature. So we had the head kind of like this, and then we can move this back a little bit more. Just trying to capture the whole gesture. Let's just kind of get this knee forward a little bit, and then this down. And if we look from the back view, we got to bring this knee in a little bit because the whole weight is on top of this foot here. So we got to bring this like this. We got to remember that there is, that curvature here. So this is more like tilted like this. Let's just bring this foot in a little bit. And then bring this. Actually, I'm gonna bring this leg back like this. I think it's more like that. All right, like thinking about this gesture here now. All right, it's coming along. It will be much easier once we convert this to geometry, and then I will, sort of find some boxes, kind of build the boxy structure. But it's somewhat cool to try. I like trying different tools and different techniques. All right, so I'm exaggerating, the pose a little bit just to kind of emphasize. Let's see, we can have this head kind of rotated this way a little bit. And I like how, this head is kind of tilted a little bit. So just to kind of help with this whole movement. All right. And, just taking my time here. Like, we don't have to rush. Like, the more time I spend in this moment, trying to get things accurate. I'm not only, studying, but I'm also making all of the next steps much more fun. This is actually cool. Like maybe if I get the hang of using this whole mannequin, I see how powerful it can be. I guess um, I just need to practice a little bit more because it doesn't feel very natural the way some of these things are happening. But hey, we all learning, right? So yeah. All right. All right. All right. Remember that whole. It feels like this guy is wearing a hat. It's pretty funny. All right. Cool. So this. Let's just get this shoulder back. This elbow is you know straight, so I definitely want to emphasize that. Kind of bring this in a little bit. It's not too bad. It's also not as dynamic as I want, but I think it's getting there. Let's see. Let's just keep pushing things and you know really want to make sure I'm kind of capturing that whole uh, subtle twist and bend of the whole body. And from this angle here, this angle also had that very big movement. Let's see if I can capture that a little bit better. Yeah, that's the stuff that I'm, that's kind of uh, not very enjoyable, but I'm pretty sure there's a way. I just need to practice more. Anyways, I'll stop complaining. All right, so cool. So, all right, some of these movement here is actually starting to feel nice. There you go. Let me just save this. And I guess I'm ready to just convert this to geometry. And if I remember correctly, I just go to adaptive skin and then I click make adaptive skin. And then there you go. We got a geometry for us. And I'm just grab my plane back and just kind of append my plane. And there you go. So let's see the chat real quick. All right, let's see. Thank you all. Thank you all. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks for coming by. That means a lot. All of the comments that I got on my latest video too. So I'm definitely, honestly, I have so many plans for us here, and I'm so stoked to be finally able to start executing a lot of these ideas. And I have a great support from my family, my sister, my wife, and my friends, obviously too. And I have so much cool stuff planned, and I hope you guys join me in all of this fun because I have a good vision of stuff that I want to do, not only for me but for all of us, for the community. All right, let's just see here. Do you think? Can you? Maybe I'll answer some of these Portuguese questions later in English. Uh, let's see. Yeah, the references are in the second screen here. I can bring those in, but otherwise it makes my working area like too small, and and then you get the idea, right? Like I will keep bringing this on and off. And as for those of you who were here in the beginning, we were just kind of analyzing some of these references here, and thinking about the main structure. So I'm kind of going over some of that. Yeah, I need to bring this guy back a little bit more. So one thing that it's important here is the whole center of mass. So if we usually go from, like, in this case, from the ear to the toe to the heels, this is where his whole mass is centered. And from the side, it's again the same idea, right? So that's the part that if I look here, this is actually very wrong. So I need to be tilting his whole torso back a little bit from the hips, which I will do once I get a little bit of this structure in place. So let's just kind of work on that. All right, cool. So we got this guy going on. Let's start filling up some of these masses, and I'm gonna go from the mass of the big structures, right? So I'm using here a clay buildup just to kind of make things a little bit easier. And then I'm gonna, just try to kind of keep things very simple. So blocking out the whole mass of the back here, or the rib cage, I should say. And, I'm not gonna do an écorché, right? Like, and kind of build all of the muscles. I'm gonna go towards, in this case today, directly to the surface. Obviously, I'm thinking about the underlying structure, the bones, and I'm thinking about all of that, and those are great exercises, but that's not the exercise I want to do today. What I want to do today, it's just capture the essence of the pose and look at silhouette and some other things. So I think this needs to go down a little bit more because my hips need to. There you go, feeling much better. All right. Yeah, I think I prefer working from the boxes so far, or maybe I'm just much more used to working directly with, boxes, or just kind of strutting things out. But anyways, good to test stuff. All right, so at this point, I think I have enough information here to kind of indicate me the structures. So I'm just gonna grab my mask here. Also, by the way, for those of you who use my UI, which you can get for free on my Gunroad, I'm gonna be giving an update because that one is from ZBrush 2016, I think. So I built and I removed a couple stuff. I added a couple more features which I'm using now. I'm gonna send an update to Gumroad so you can get the updated version. All right, so look from the back. This is much better now. Cool. All right, digging this. All right, let's get this arm. Maybe here. A little bit more like this, and we can get this guy. Cool. All right, from the back, this is a good angle. And like I said, I might be exaggerating the pose a little bit, which is totally fine, right? Like, for this exercise today, I just want to be able to really capture the gesture. And what I really like about this pose is just this gestural, kind of beautiful sort of structure. So I'm just gonna block out, indicate a little bit of the head. Some of the poses from these packs, they actually give you like fully real 360, like a bunch of photos like 360, and those are awesome to do a couple of studies. This one that I have doesn't have all of the 360s, so just a couple. And they are all different, like guys moving a little bit more like what you would encounter in real life. So I was never a fan of, like putting stuff here on ZBrush and just kind of drawing over. I guess depending on the exercise, that it's very helpful. But in this case here, I really want to feel the pose and reconstruct to see if I can capture that feeling more than the actual lines themselves. if that makes sense, right? So I'm going after the feeling. All right, so just gonna use inflate here, just gonna give it a little bit more volume, just to kind of inflate things a little bit more. So just to kind of give it a little bit more thickness, let's go with the arms as well. So it doesn't feel like let's see this guy here. Let's, start carving out, helping with some of this gesture here, using the move. Now that I have enough information here, I think I'm gonna start refining some of this gesture and some of the main proportions. Let's just move this arm this way. In a little bit, I'm gonna actually add the stick or whatever that's called, just to help me find all of the relationships. Let's just kind of get a little bit of a more somewhat of a head. And you can see I'm, going from alt in and out, and, like swapping between all of the different tools using my keyboard. So I have hotkeys for the brushes. So depending on what I'm trying to do, I know there is a better brush for that. So then I just, switch to the brush that I want. I'm just gonna have some sort of indication here of where this structure would be. Just kind of use that to gauge more relationships. Let's keep going. So whenever I encounter like a big mess like this, which I don't know what's going on, I'm just gonna try to go for some of the landmarks. And I know I have a bone structure here, right? Which gives me, that whole tilt of the pelvis. So I'm gonna, just find those landmarks here, kind of use some of these other lines to kind of help me position myself. Some of these lines here give me some of the sharp edges that I was talking about before. I don't want to fill up the obliques here like too much, because I want to keep this a little bit, I want to keep the rib cage structure a little bit more defined at first. Let's see. Let's start indicating some of the chest anatomy just very, very lightly. Not too worried about abs or anything like that, just thinking about large masses. All right, let's look at the thickness of this whole body. All right, it's not too bad, not too bad. Let's keep going. So adding a little bit more mass here for the back. And, again, really trying to emphasize all of that gesture. Let's get some of the glutes going here. I'm just gonna think about more square, big square masses. Let's bring some of this mass here for the front, and again, like pushing that out a little bit more. Trying to find more square edges, more structure. Let's see. you know, whenever I find areas like this, I like just, using sharper edges and just using like the clay brush, for example, like with alt. So then I get like some sharp lines, and that helps me give a more sense of a structure. Let's see. Let's keep going. And I feel everything, it's getting a little bit bigger, so my proportions are definitely off now that I move the pelvis down. So let's just do like a quick pass on proportions as a whole. It's probably much better. Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is fun. All right. You know, let's try to capture a little bit more of the legs. Going for the final silhouette already. Trying to use, so one thing that I always have in mind is the least amount of form that I need to have to indicate what I'm trying to indicate, which I guess it's a conceptual idea that painters tend to use a lot, and which the more I paint, the more I pick up on, which is, something we call brush economy. But also it can be seen as just, simplification too. So what is the least amount of information needed, or how can we simplify this into the least amount of things to kind of convey that idea, or to have enough information so we can actually judge and make more educated decisions. And I noticed that my hips are, remember, like, it needs to be tilted forward. So I gotta make sure like it is tilted forward, right? So that's that very clear tilt here, which is happening here. And I can emphasize a little bit of that. Just thinking in three-dimensionality, 3D forms at all times. Some of these angles are much easier than others. But anyways. Yeah. So let's see the chat. You have the option of adding an image as references for the viewer. Oh, that's pretty cool on OBS. I'll give it a shot. I'll try. The Anatomy Studies Volume 1 was a really helpful reference. Will there be a continuation? Yes, I worked a little bit on Anatomy Volume 2, a couple pieces, but it was like a couple years ago. I do have it planned to coming back. I just don't know why. Like, I just don't know when, sorry. But I do want to get back into it eventually. I appreciate it that you liked it. Honestly, it was just something that I built for myself. And then I started sharing, and people seemed to like it. So I ended up just, putting in a book. But at that time, I was just literally studying. What's up? What's up? This is the way Daniel sculpted his statues. That's pretty dope. Yeah, without symmetry, obviously, it's something that it's very important. And I do a lot of a lot of work without symmetry. To me, today was just mainly starting with the mannequin. That's something that I'm not very used to. Yeah, I was actually talking to Daniel earlier today. That's pretty cool. Uh, do you think the angle of the camera on the software is the so the angle of the camera of the software, like in ZBrush here, you mean, right? Definitely can change things around, but I'm not going for very precise proportions. I'm just going for the ballpark, the overall senses of the ballpark, right? So unless I'm like looking from like an angle like this, which proportions will get distorted, like from, you know, far away, and I believe I have a 50 or 85 focal length. You know, it's not gonna get to. So even I change, if I remove perspective, right? Like for example, like it does change a little bit, but it's so minimal that it's not gonna impact what I'm doing right now. Uh, when would you use clay brush over clay buildup? I don't ever use clay brush, honestly. I just use uh, clay buildup. Is brush economy possible in sculpting? It is actually, once we get past this big mess here, I guess, like just kind of getting some of these forms in place, which there are many ways to get these forms. Like sometimes I will actually start with primitives, you know, like cylinders, and just kind of put a bunch of cylinders on top of the other. If you guys never seen that process, Geo Nakpil, it's the one who introduced that to me, and then just check out his videos. But basically you can get, you know, forms, and especially I learned that when I was learning how to do VR, but you can get like a bunch of forms and just kind of stack the forms on top. And, you know, for blocking out the legs, it seems to be very much easier to just kind of separate the different shapes and, you know, the Lego pieces, if you will. Um, Sometimes I go with the snake hook and just kind of, you know, sketch some of the shapes and some of the main proportions too. But once we get past, you know, like having enough surface, I think brush economy becomes something that I'm very interested in developing more. Uh, I recorded a video last night, that I'm going to be releasing on Monday on, you know, a quick intro to ZBrush for the iPad. And in that video, I sculpt a skull, and that skull I actually use a lot of, like I'm trying to practice more. So basically, instead of doing, you know, like many small strokes here, which can be good for tertiary forms and secondary forms, I go very bold with some of my decisions, right? So if I want to block out here, and then this can actually help you indicate things much better, and it gives a more sense of um, it basically helps you to not stay shy or not be too shy when you are approaching some of these forms, right? As we are in painting, right? Like you want to be bold. Well, I want to be bold, right? Maybe you don't, but you know, it's good practice to be bold and to be really thinking about everything that you're doing and describing more with less, I guess. So even here, like if I just actually do a couple of strokes, you can actually see how some of these conceptual ideas of even cross hatching, for example, they also apply to sculpture. And that's one of the reasons we all like, you know, the clay buildup so much, because you can describe form not only by creating form, but also by, you know, insinuating form with the strokes as well, because now the strokes are going around and the form is also round, and the lighting and shadow is also helping to create the illusion of form here. In this case, is actually creating form, right? But that's why it is very good to use all of the tools you have at your disposal to describe everything you want to describe, right? All right, so let's just keep going, because my proportions are, you know, the main shape. There's still lots of work here to do. There's a way your sculpt looks at the end. It looks soft, so smooth and very appealing. If I try sculpting, it ends up looking hard. Any tip on how to fix that? Yes, don't, like, of course you have the smooth brush, right? Like, but that doesn't give you what you're looking for. just go with smaller brushes and keep building forms. So go from primary forms, secondary forms, tertiary forms. I believe I read a book. Well, I read a book. I believe it's the Lanteri sculpting book. And if I'm not mistaken, on that book, he describes you don't actually have to smooth the surface. The surface will smooth itself once you start developing smaller and smaller forms. And I guess conceptually that is a really cool idea. Although I do use the smooth quite a lot, even in clay. Like, you know, I'm depending on what I'm doing and the phase that I'm doing, I will use the smooth, and then I will place stuff and I will use the smooth, right? But conceptually, the idea is that you can get to smaller surfaces, and then you develop this surface, and then you develop this other surface here, for example, right? And then you develop this other surface here too. And then once you zoom out, you just can kind of just blend some of these things just slightly, and then you get that very polished look, but without losing the sense of form. And again, going back to painting, you are putting all of these styles, right? And then you are not over blending, and then eventually you just blend selectively a couple of things, and then you get the resolution that you're looking for. Anyway, so let's just keep going. I'll come back to the chat in a little bit. All right, so let's just kind of continuing. Now that we have a little bit more mass here, you know what I'm gonna do? I like working, sometimes I like isolating a couple things just to kind of help my mind focus on certain things. So I'm just gonna hide these arms for now, and I'm gonna hide this head. So that helps me just to kind of pay attention at the movement of the torso. So anyway, so I wanna make sure I'm capturing this here. I'm not really thinking, so, okay, so this is another concept that can be very tricky to understand at first. So there is anatomy, there is gesture, and there is movement, and there is flow. So like all of these things, they are all intertwined. But anatomy is another tool in your toolbox. But ultimately, well, in my perspective on art, the design sense and the composition of the forms and the flow and the gesture, to me, that it's much more appealing than the actual anatomy itself. So in this phase here, although I'm thinking and I know that there is a rib cage here and there and all of that, I want to capture more of the design language, you know, of like this structure, right? I want to capture the flow. So I'm more interested in capturing the flow and then putting anatomy on top rather than just building from the inside out. That being said, I've done multiple studies over the years, over, you know, like almost 20 years of building the structure, just building all of the bones, putting all of the muscles on top and all of that. But I'm in this, so that is very important, but I'm not in that moment in my life, and that's not what I want to study right now, right? So in this phase, I'm much more interested in capturing the gesture and constructing the anatomy after the gesture is captured. And I think there are reasons for doing both of them. Anyways, just wanted to point that out. So let's just keep going. So, you know, gonna start thinking about some of these secondary forms here, just navigating between some of these volumes, some of these proportions. It's not too bad. Let's just keep going. Whenever you're working on one leg, it's probably a good idea to just mask it out. Again, you can see like this beautiful line here, trying to really emphasize some of these shapes and these not only structures but also some idealization of some of these things, right? So, you know, that you can go to the Bridgman book and then you can read some other ideas on how to simplify some of these structures. But anyways, I'm not really organized to do a lecture right now, so I just want to kind of sculpt and maybe just talk about whatever comes to mind. But so hopefully that is helpful, even if that is not a formal lecture, right? So this is just me kind of sculpting and bliss blasting, I guess. Just kind of going over whatever comes to mind. Cool. So we're gonna have the obliques here. So let's just kind of, and using the dem standard here just to kind of indicate some of these other forms, I'm gonna carve it out here. Just kind of going over some of this, getting this volume here out a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is fun, man. It's been a while. Yeah, this leg's probably a little bit too big, so let's just move these knees up a little bit. Yeah, more like this. Cool. Just move this plane up. All right, that's much better. And again, I want to continue with the whole gesture idea. So is there anything that I can do to, continuing emphasizing the gesture? I will do. So not gonna worry too much about the feet, but I definitely want to indicate the structure here. So let's just kind of get this guy in here. Let's just see. So this is gonna be, the big toe, some of that structure. Yeah, there you go. Just building a little bit more of the anatomy of the feet here. Just getting those, primary shapes in place, so just start to resemble a foot. For the knee here, I want to capture the boxy aspect of the knee to kind of help me with, this structure. So, going with more squarish shapes will help me pay attention to structure. Let's see. And you can see, like here, I want to fill it up, this volume. I don't want to be sculpting this right now. And I know there's a big mess here. So as if I was just drawing, I would just I just fill it up a little bit. There's mass here, and I will come back to it later. But all of these ideas, I think they are important to practice. And that's kind of what makes you the illusion that you are working fast, which is another topic for another video, like becoming fast, I guess. It's something that I get a lot of people asking me about. And anyways, I'm not going to spoil the video, which I have actually recorded half of it already. Anyway, so this is this is, you know, starting to take shape. It's kind of moving quickly here, not trying to spend too much time on any of these things, just kind of getting some of these proportions, dispositions in place. Let's just move on to the other leg. I'm gonna mask out this leg so I can freely use my move brush. Let's just see the chat real quick. All right. Are you open to mentorship? I'm a student of school here in Canada. So not right now, unfortunately, but I do get that question very often. And I did a lot of mentorship previously. But I'm not doing that right now, unfortunately, but I will be. Like I said, I don't want to talk too much, but I have a couple plans for next year that you may like. So working on ideas that can help you and other people that are in the same boat. So cool. What's up, everybody? Will the stream stay online? Yes, this stream will stay online forever. Guys, make sure to hit that like button. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Cool. All right, so let's just keep going. I'm drinking some Diet Coke, caffeine free. I've been on this caffeine free trend after lunch, so I only drink coffee in the morning now. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Let's just move this knee up a little bit, and starting to like, you know, this gesture here. It's not too bad. For being talking to you all and, you know, streaming and doing all of that, this is actually a little bit further ahead than I anticipated, which is cool. So let's just keep going. All right, so this is interesting. Let me just share here on Photoshop. So I'm looking at this pose here, and I'm looking at the knees. So where my eyes are right now, they see this line, they see this line, and then I can only travel here to the knee, but I can feel that it keeps traveling in this direction. And then I see this shape here, and then I see this shape going out, and then I see this shape going back, and this shape going out, and this shape going back, right? But I also see this shadow shape here, this crease, and I'm gonna use that to indicate. So I'm gonna put a mark here and then compare this mark with this relationship to all of the way of some of these landmarks here, and then down here. So here you can use this mark to do the same, but there is not enough surface detail here or shadow or information. So then here you gotta rely on, you know, maybe some other simplifications, right? Or the type of like diagrams. Another thing that I didn't mention here in some of these images is the pattern of the shadow, right? The pattern of the shadow, or which you call like the core shadow, right? Like where shadow meets light. This pattern here, and although we could be looking at this core shape, this core shadow shape like this, you know, if we were to just kind of simplify, you can see that it's just doing this, right? And then this also helps us really understand the sort of like structure that we have, right? So this is in shadow, light is coming from here, right? So this is like, you know, half light, and then, so this is light and this is all shadow, which gives me a clear idea that this is all shadow. And then this is light, right? Which again helps us emphasize the whole box idea. So then you have your halftones here and then your shadows here. But anyways, so, and if we look here, although our light is not being rendered and it's a different position, I do get that same sense of boxiness of my structure, right? anyways, I'm jumping out between many different topics here. But okay, so going back, you can see that I placed this mark already, right? That's why I stopped. So I placed this mark because I want to use that to help me find the knee. And the knee, it's at an angle. So it's a box at an angle. It can be simplified as a box at an angle. So, and then you remember there was another movement this way, which we can use, this move brush here just to kind of help us get some of these things in shape. And then I'm gonna use, again, just cross-hatching a little bit, just kind of indicating a little bit of form, just kind of pushing these things this way. And yeah, it's coming along. Let's go. Let's now look at this angle here. And I can push the glutes in a little bit more. And then again, thinking about brush economy, I'm just gonna be very kind of decisive with my marks. It helps with clarity, and it helps me to really think about what I'm doing. So this, I'm gonna just push these guys out here. And again, remember, like from the front view, I want to make the knee in a little bit. So really help emphasize that the weight, the leg is fully stretched. And there you go. There you go. All right, let's keep going. You can see that I'm always rotating the model, right? Like looking at from all angles. To be honest, depending on what I'm doing, I may just kind of stop at an angle, a specific angle, and kind of lock myself in a little bit just to kind of nail if it's something it's just very hard or it's not looking correct. And then, figure it out what's going on, and then go into the other angles. But for now, I feel comfortable with just kind of jumping between all of these different things and kind of jumping around. And all right, so let's just make this a little bit thicker. Let's just now build a little bit of mass. A little bit of mass on the foot. I'm just kind of get a little bit more volume here. So the other method that you could be using to kind of be building, well, maybe let's just do that in another video, because otherwise it's gonna get too confusing. All right, so I think I get excited and I just wanna talk about everything. And I may actually sometimes confuse people even more, but hopefully you guys are following along. All right, so remember that movement. All right, it's not too bad, not too bad. Going for that big movement here. And I'm still working with very, very big brushes, and I'm gonna get a little bit smaller. So all right, so let's just go to the move tool here, and just kind of block out some of the feet a little bit. Now I'm gonna go with a little bit of a smaller brush and start, defining things a little bit more, because it's a little bit too crazy for my taste. So, and I have a somewhat very stylized indication of a foot here, but I like some of these more um, it's exaggerated, I guess, simplifications. They tend to help with structure and proportions and even direction in some of these things. Personality, I guess. All right, so just kind of move this knee up a little bit because this knee should be a little bit higher than this because this leg is actually straight. So just kind of move this whole mass up a little bit. Yeah, and kind of bring back that whole movement. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Much better. All right, cool. And, I have a little shape here, another shape there. Let's just use this guy to help us navigate. Let's just kind of, indicate a little bit more forms. And hopefully you can see that this is maybe a subject for a different day or a different video too, but how do I navigate the very chaotic nature of what we're doing here with confidence that that I'm gonna be able to solve all of the problems that I'm seeing? And how do I guess, split my focus between everything that I'm seeing, right? Because I need to be looking at proportions, shape design, anatomy, trying to match the same flow there, and I'm trying to capture this and that, like all of the things that I'm talking about. Like, how do I selectively choose what to focus on at each time? So maybe this is something for a different video or for another day. But basically, it comes down to priorities, right? So my priority, although right now I'm starting to enjoy thinking about some of these other forms and whatnot, I need to keep reminding myself that, hey, it's about the flow, it's about the movement, it's about the feeling of this character, or the feeling of this pose, I should say, right? So I got to remind myself that that's what I'm going after today. And that helps me to stay focused. And you can see this is starting to take shape. It's not too bad for the amount of time that we spent. And I think this is okay. I just want to work a little bit more on the torso. Let's see. So, just gonna continue some of these brush strokes, and remember, like, we have the pectorals going this way. I'm just gonna bring these arms back a little bit more. Let's just kind of hide this blob of a head because it's a little bit distracting. So I want to, just kind of indicate some of these guys here. Let's just kind of bring some of these clavicles. I guess we will need to bring a little bit of the trapezius here. Let's see. And I see, the scapula here, but I do see a very big flow coming this way, helping with the whole flow of lines going this way and then going this way. And then you can also start thinking about the design of some of these gestures. I keep using the word design, and for the longest time, I didn't understand what people meant about design. I was always like, isn't this just the anatomy? Like, what do you mean by design? And it took me the longest time to really understand, actually. But yes, there are muscles here, right? There is a skin here, but ultimately, I want to capture what I'm seeing, but I need to make certain decisions of how I'm capture what I'm seeing, right? And I need to be selective with the choices that I make, and I also want to maybe modify some of the flow of some of these shapes. That's why I'm not really thinking about the muscles right now. I'm just thinking about, I see a hard sort of structure here, and then I see the flow of stuff going this way, and the stuff going this way, although it may not be here, there, and whatever. Again, in this specific exercise, I'm just going after the flow and the movement, right? I will, though, later down the road, as I started doing with the legs, just kind of go in and think about the actual anatomy, like what actually makes these forms going this way. But I realized that after many years doing all of these studies, if I just go after the surface, if I just go after the muscles themselves, the image may be very accurate, but it looks very stiff and boring. And and there is the difference between the artists that I really enjoy and some of the artists that are building, you know, maybe very, very accurate and realistic stuff, but then the work feels very dry to me, at least. So I prefer the more designed anatomy, if you will. But again, it really depends on where you are in your career and where you are in your journey and what you're going after. I've done multiple exercises, and I still do, that I'm just trying to really mimic what I'm seeing, because those type of exercises help you to train your eyes and to really understand what you see. All right, so now I feel like we have a good mass here. I'm gonna start building a little bit more of this oblique here, which will start helping out the transitional part of, the relationship between all of these forms. And again, I'm really trying to, create movement, and I'm doing my brush strokes in this direction. I'm using, I'm trying to find excuses in the anatomy to kind of emphasize some of these movements, right? And I'm not being very descriptive with the anatomy itself, but you can see like how some of these lines help me really sell the piece. And I can even do a couple more here, and then this is a more of a design approach of the gesture of the piece that I'm building here. That's something that took me the longest time, and obviously I'm still developing, right? Like, but I feel like the more I paint and the more I draw and the more I study, like those art forms, those mediums, I think they are much easier to study certain elements. Like, for example, like studying anatomy, it's definitely much easier to study when sculpting, right? Like, because then you can actually see everything kind of going on top of the other. And I feel like sculpting is probably, sculpting the classic écorché or something like that. Everybody needs to do one of that or a couple of those in their lives. Every artist, I should say. But then like design language and shape design, composition, those concepts are much easier to train and to practice and to understand, I think, in 2D. But then obviously they all apply to 3D as well. And I think like I spent most of my career sculpting, and then the past 4 or 5 years I really got into drawing and painting, and now I'm lately on this whole oil painting journey, which hopefully I will share some stuff here soon. But it has been drastically changing how I approach and what I focus on, and truly what I actually care about when I'm doing these studies now. Like my focus of importance has changed, I guess. Anyway, so okay, so like this is from the back. This is this is a little bit thicker than what I see in the reference, but I don't mind. I am actually digging the some of these forms that I have here. Let's see, like this back again also looks a little bit different. Maybe I can actually, let's see if I can help with some of these, the movement a little bit more. Let's just kind of block out the arms a little bit. let's just kind of do a quick glance over all of these. And okay, I like this. I like this movement. Maybe this is pinching here a little bit too much. So let's just kind of move this in, this out. This is cool. No, now I'm actually looking at this negative shape here. And then maybe we, you know, bring this foot up just a touch. So then it feels a little bit more connected. And then we can actually tilt it. So then it's just kind of sitting on top of on the ball here. And then it gives a nice gesture as well. You know, some subtleties in some of these gestures. All right, let's keep going. I like that this guy's here going here. You know, just get some of these other structures here a little bit more. Let's see. Let's kind of pull this in more. Let's see. I feel like I want to emphasize the obliques on this side. Remember, we fill it up on the other side, but not on this side here. And I want to feel the tension. So from this angle, I want to make sure we get the feeling that this is, you know, being stretched. And we can just kind of indicate a little bit of like the stomach and a little bit of the ab structure here. Again, not gonna think about muscles too much, just thinking about the rib cage, underlying structure, design, and I keep repeating myself, but it's just because those are the things that I'm thinking about. Okay, so then this is here. Let's just pull this in a little bit more. Okay, okay. All right, all right, all right. Before we block out the arms, and I'm probably gonna do like maybe like 30 more minutes. It's not gonna be a very long session today. All right, let's just go over the chat a little bit. Yeah, the live will be saved. Any plans on going into some production stuff in the future? You mean like game asset making, that sort of thing? Yeah, for sure. I will, you know, try to bring more of that stuff here. How do you tilt the camera that quickly? When I try to tilt the camera in ZBrush using shift, it rotates too slow. Huh. I actually don't know what you mean. Like, you mean this? So, yeah, I actually don't know. Navigation speed. Honestly, I never change any of that, so I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, sorry. Under the arm and between legs, it's hard to get that part right. Yeah, that is tricky, for sure. So you're only struggling when tilting the camera, especially when zoomed in close to part of the model. Like, you mean like this? Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to help, but I just couldn't really understand. I feel when you talk different focus like anatomy gesture designers probably help to learn by drawing and focusing on these concepts from stuff like New Masters Academy. For sure, yeah, I actually took a couple classes and especially the Russian Academy with Ilya, a friend of mine too, became a friend, and that class is just masterful, beautiful. The whole Russian Academy approach to arts too, I'm a huge fan. It really opened up my eyes to working with masses and design and so many different things. I have a bunch of Russian books here too, and I really love, how they do what they do. Um, hey, what's up, Diego? Good seeing you too, buddy. Hey, what's up, Bona? Yeah, I will try. Getting there, getting there. Uh, do you think that having an incredible level of anatomy sculpting can be a differentiator for standout in big studios? Anatomy, again, like I said, like anatomy is gonna be another thing in your toolbox. I think there is a level of anatomy that it's kind of it has to be understood because otherwise you won't be able to sculpt certain things. But becoming like anatomy master and like really becoming really really good with anatomy, I don't think that's a prerequisite. Neither I think it would be something that you know uh, could make you stand out. I think ultimately what makes you stand out is being able to execute, you know, concepts, ideas, images, and all of that, right? Like, so understanding what makes a good image, what makes a good model, that sort of thing. And like I said, like anatomy can be a way of training that, but also all of these other aspects that I'm talking about are also very important. But if you are just starting out, you need to know, basic anatomy, right? Like you need to understand. Um, maybe you're not gonna be able to execute what I'm doing here very easily, and but I don't think that would be a showstopper. And obviously, there are people that can do this what I'm doing here much better than me as well. So that's why I'm still studying, and I want to keep studying. And I one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this sort of thing too. But um, but I don't think that is a must have. I think you need to have some understanding of anatomy. Uh, but as anything else, some people, you know, stand out by being really good at anatomy. Some people stand out by being really good at different things. So uh, ultimately, it's another skill set that you need to develop for sure. All right, so let's just go over to these arms here, and then again, I'm gonna use that little trick of uh, just kind of isolating the arms a little bit so we can just kind of focus and don't overthink too much. So here, let me just save this real quick. How is your regular daily routine like? You have family? Are you working 8 hours regularly plus all the stuff that you're doing? Yeah, so I usually wake up at 5:30, 6 in the morning. Um, I was training for Ironman and triathlons and doing all of that. I'm not doing that anymore. So sometimes I paint in the morning when I wake up. Sometimes I go for a run. Sometimes I just sleep, a little bit more. Then I take my kid to school, stay a little bit of time with them in the morning. Um, and then I usually get to work by 9:30, or start working. I've been working from home most of the time. I usually start working by 9:30, something like that. And depending on the day, I actually paint a little bit before work. But my kid starts school at 8, so if I get back home like 8:30, sometimes I just draw or doodle for like 30 minutes or something. Or in the past couple of weeks, I've been just playing with the iPad in the morning as well. Um, so then I work till 5:36, and then I stay with my family for till 9:30, and then I put my kids to bed, and then I get back here, and then I paint a little bit. I've been painting, or some days I'm just very tired and I just don't do anything. So you know, a little bit, maybe like 2-3 hours of a day of personal work. A lot of the stuff that I've been putting out these days, I have actually recorded previously too. So it's, you know, I'm trying to find a way of putting, you know, finding a good rhythm for putting content out, uh, and also producing stuff, and, you know, doing studies and all of that. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let's just kind of look at this arm a little bit more. I want to make sure, again, we are kind of going so he's, you know, we're gonna get that flow here. And then let's just kind of, and then this hand's gonna be kind of holding like that. So I'm just gonna do like a little bit of a blob with the hand, and then probably just kind of separate out the thumb, which is gonna be probably here. And I'll come back to this. I just want to have like some sort of like indication of a hand. This is going to be my elbow. We have the triceps here. So let's just kind of go over some of that, those volumes. Whenever I have like, you know, areas like this, I like to just kind of carve it in and then use like the inflate brush just to kind of build some volume there. It just makes it a little bit easier to control some of those forms. Let's see. So let's see. Let's just think about the flow here. We're gonna go over, you know, in more nuance in some of these structures in a little bit, but I just want to, you know, be able to block it out first. Let's see if we can do a little bit more gestural stuff. So this is okay. Let's just see what kind of lines we can create here. Yeah, something like that. Okay. All right. All right, all right. And there you go. All right, so this is good for now. Let's just kind of go over the other arm. Maybe I should, you know, bring some sort of like stick here, just to kind of represent how I'm gonna do that. Let's see. Maybe I'll just grab a cylinder and do it the easiest way possible. Let's see, this is roughly his size. So something like this. Let's see this angle, more like this. And then I guess this arm can rotate a little bit more, and then this hand we can kind of help with the gesture a little bit more. All right. And again, like I said, we can work on this, what that actually is exactly. I just want to get a very simple indication of stuff here to kind of help me with the whole. Okay, so that gives me more reference points to look at some of these negative shapes here. Let me just bring Photoshop over real quick. So if we look at this negative shape here, now I can actually look, and it's actually not too bad, and it's actually not too far. I also noticed that I can use, you know, this line here to kind of guide me, and I can see that my elbow is a little bit too low, you know, maybe my arm is a little bit too thick, proportionally, right? So we can kind of just pull this in a little bit, maybe just help indicate some of these guys here. Let's just kind of, you know, do a little bit of these here. Yeah, something like that. Let's just keep looking at, let me just do another pass here now that we have this stick, just to kind of get a feel for everything. Yeah, I like this, I like that. I like some of these other forms here. All right, school. Let's see from this angle here that we have the arm now. Yeah, I like this is kind of exaggerated a little bit more, tilted back, but I do like that it's helping with the pose a little bit more. Just kind of keeping some of these, you know, very, you know, emphasizing some of these decisions here, making a little bit more boxy and more square. It's not gonna hurt to kind of make things a little bit, you know, stronger. I like this gesture here of the knee. All right, so this is going okay. I'm just gonna push this in a little bit more here. Let's just from this view here. This is probably a little bit too exaggerated, but that's fine. Let's look at this other leg. Okay, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Just bring this knee in a little bit more, or just pull this out. Yeah, like this. I want to get that break that we talked about. I feel like I'm not capturing that too much. I just need to bring this out a little bit more, I feel, from the front. So yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. So now we are getting that boxy form that I was going after. Although my leg is maybe too thick here, so let's just kind of change it a bit. And just pull this knee in. There you go. All right, so let's see. Let's see. what do you recommend for beginners that want to practice gestures too? Definitely quick, quick, quick gesture drawing, like from you know live models, or at least going from photos. Like doing 30 seconds, 1 minute poses. Uh, that sort of thing I think is very helpful, even if the drawing itself doesn't turn uh, like a good drawing, like an appealing, visually appealing drawing. I think for those studies, this is less important, because to make one of those drawings appealing, you need to master not only the gesture itself, but also line thickness and line weight and uh, economy and whatever. Like there are so many factors that makes a drawing visually appealing. And if you're just trying to practice flow and gesture and all of that, uh, think about that. Like obviously everything else will help you in on your journey, right? Like, but don't get frustrated if your quick drawings, if your live drawings from like 1 minute poses, 30 seconds, 2 minutes poses, if the drawing itself doesn't turn out fantastic, focus on capturing the flow and focus on the proportions and the relationship between all of those things, right? You can see here that I'm mainly thinking about the big proportions, the shape, the flow, but my surface here is not great, right? Which there is a reason for that, because that takes time, and I haven't spent the time that it takes to make that like appealing. But it's the same with, and there is a way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is a way to make this very fast, very beautiful, and appealing, right? And that requires practice on this very specific subject. But it doesn't mean that I'm not practicing gesture, even if the gesture itself, um, it's not presentable, I guess, right? Anyway, so those are exercises, and obviously what I'm doing here is also very crucial, right? Like, so you can put something in a pose and then keep rotating. Well, another exercise that I think is really cool is actually clay sculpting. Clay sculpting in general. I think it's much, 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 much 1,000 times easier to pose in clay, because you can feel the armature and then you can pose, you can move stuff around. Here in ZBrush is actually very, very hard and very cumbersome to just kind of move the arms, right? Like I can grab these shoulders here in clay and just kind of move them in, just kind of rotate and move stuff around, roll the shoulders in. Here in ZBrush, I'm like, you need to rotate the camera and do this and do that, and then you select, you do a mask. Like if you just want to grab this arm and just kind of move this arm, or like squeeze the arm so then the arm stretches out a little bit more. Like in clay, this is very, very straightforward, and it helps with getting a sense of the feeling of the pose. You can also look from the pose and just kind of tweak in three-dimensional space. And I'm hoping that's what I was really enjoying working with VR, because of that sense of three-dimensionality. And probably something that I want to get back into it eventually. But that's what I really miss about traditional sculpting when working digitally. It's just this idea of space, and which I think it's much harder to get a handle of. All right, so this is cool. Let's just kind of block out this other arm before we call this a night. Let's do the same thing, so we don't get distracted. Let's just kind of hide this guy here. Oh, one more. I definitely need to improve my character design skills. Do you have any suggestions for articles or books that could help me on this journey? That's the tricky one. It's something that I'm on this journey myself, right? Looking at how people simplify what you're trying to do, like Bridgman, for example. Like we all like Bridgman so much because his style and his simplification of forms and his design and his calligraphy and all of all these other conceptual ideas, I think, are very visually appealing and also easy to digest. So going after stuff like that, I think it's very important. I personally love Lion Decker, and I'm actually thinking about doing a series here. I did a quick, sketch on the iPad the other day about a Lion Decker piece, just translating some of his forms into 3D. Uh, and I had a lot of fun doing that. Um, I may do a series here with you guys, either live or recorded, just on Lion Decker itself. Maybe we can look at Bridgman together too. Um, but then it really depends on the style, right? Like I have many many heroes, from Frazetta, for example, and he has really good sense of design, and it's kind of hard to give you specific tips on that because I think there are many many paths and many different styles and journeys, and without knowing exactly what you're doing and where you are, it's hard to give generic feedback. Does a screen tablet make a difference, or are paint tablets good enough? I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but I'm on where's my OBS? But I'm on a tablet. I work with Cintiq for many years, like visual, like display tablets. But to be honest, I don't enjoy those anymore. Although I will say that I'm enjoying working on the iPad. But to me, it's mainly the posture. Like you get hunched over, and then I started having like back problems, and I just like being, disconnected from the screen and kind of working. This separation helps me to keep a good distance. Same when I'm painting. I like painting from a distance. Even when I'm drawing, I like drawing from a distance from my eyes because otherwise I get like very close. But there's something to be said, right? Like the actual display is super nice, and being able to actually move your hands on the screen, it's pretty cool too. But I think I switched back to regular tablets like 5 or 6 years ago, and I gave my Cintiq away, and I don't miss it at all. Let's see. Let's just kind of block it out a little bit more. Let's just get like this arm's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fun to do the actual sculpt pass because some of the muscles are flexed, and you know it's always fun to work on those big guns. Um, all right, again, thinking about the gesture here without without losing myself in muscle land. Uh, I used to be, like a big muscle head myself, if that's even a word. But like I said, these days I'm much more in this path of design and, like calligraphy and uh, shape, and I'm having a blast. So instead of going directly to the muscles, I'm thinking about the design, the shape. Uh, Again, gesture again, one more time, right? All right, so let's just kind of start filling it in these gaps. Just gonna go over some of these things here. Some of these I'm doing from memory, right? Like just from my understanding of what is supposed to be here. Some of that I'm actually looking at the reference. So it's a little bit of a combination of, knowing anatomy, wanting to to have anatomy in certain spots to help me with the flow, uh, adding volumes, and then asking myself what those volumes are later down the road, uh, you know, or finding excuses for those volumes to be there. Sometimes is making sure um, stuff is in the correct place, and I'm not, like putting stuff that is not meant to be there. Like I said, like it's a combination of all of these different things. Like uh, I like using all of these things as different techniques and different tools in my tool belt that ultimately gives me the chance to literally choose what I want to focus on. And I think this arm is actually supinated. So let's just get this biceps more like here. Let's move this shoulder back a little bit more. So then this arm's gonna be, oh, he's like this. So yeah, so okay, so then the shoulder is here. And my biceps is there. And the volume of my shoulder should be here. Okay, cool. Let's just get a plane going here. Get some of this tricep going. Yeah, this guy. And again, not too worried about things being perfect right now. I will keep repeating, mainly focus on the gesture, not focus about the surface being too rough. I just want to make sure it's clean enough to kind of help me see what I need to see. All right, cool. So this shoulder needs to kind of go here. All right, all right. Let's just kind of give a little bit more thickness to this arm. Cool, cool. This guy should connect here. And we can actually look at this chest here and just kind of widen up that up a little bit. Make sure this shoulder is, it's looking all right. All right. Let's just indicate this hand. So this hand's gonna be another blob here, but this one is, you know, kind of playing the guitar or the violin. So I'm just gonna, you know, find a way of indicating that. You know, my thumb's gonna be here. My mass is gonna be somewhat here. And then, you know, the mass of my fingers. Again, just thinking about the gesture. You see how all of this is very easy. You just keep repeating yourself. And eventually things start to kind of fall into place. All right, so there you go. Just kind of trying to get that somewhat of a gesture that you can tell that the hand is there. You can tell that this hand is here. And before we call this a night, let me just kind of do a quick pass on the face so it doesn't look like a blob. All right, so hey Mag, good seeing you. Hey Mariano, good seeing you guys. Yeah, awesome, awesome. So many cool people in here. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate. Yeah, I'll go back to the questions in a little bit. Let me just kind of block out this face a little bit very quickly before we call this a night, because it's been what, like an hour and a half. So all right, again, like to I'm gonna repeat myself one more time. So I'm just gonna think about the gesture, right? Like, although I know I want to capture the structure of the face and all of that, I do still want to maintain my gesture and my main proportions. approach to the face, especially because this face is posed. So if I was just doing like a head study or just like thinking about a head specifically, I may approach this differently, but let's just keep going. So I'm thinking about the neck, thinking about the relationship of everything to the other. This guy has a somewhat of a triangular face, so thinking about this triangle here, you know, the shape of the hair will be somewhat around here. Let's just kind of indicate some of this mass. All right, so here, and again, let's just think about, you know, the nose. I don't have enough resolution to really kind of do much here, so I'm just gonna think about these main proportions. And then I can come back later here and just kind of fix stuff. Let's just kind of block out the ears real quick. Yeah, like this. Let's just put the other ear in there and just kind of work on this neck a little bit, because this is kind of, let me just grab a little bit more of the face. So he does have a little bit of like a ponytail here situation going. Let's just kind of use that in our advantage. So let me just give this guy a little bit more neck. It's a little bit too short right now. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too much. And then from the front, we can just kind of, yeah, and then we can give him a little bit more traps and kind of help with this whole connection of the head. Let's just kind of keep going on. Some of this head structure here. Let's give a little bit more mass. From the profile, his head, it's a little bit more angular. Again, one thing at a time. Let's not worry too much about everything all at once. And there's this nice gesture here that the hair is coming this way, so let's try to capture that too. And then maybe the hair can actually cover the ear this side. And then, you know, I'm quiet. Sorry. I'm quiet because I'm thinking. This is so many things to juggle all at once that I guess I'm. It's a little bit harder for me to just kind of talk while I'm trying to process everything that I'm seeing. Although I am feeling a little bit more comfortable with how this is going. Let's just kind of fix some of these. Yeah, okay. Just work on this transition here. Let's just see the whole. This is okay. I don't like this line here, so I'm just gonna soften that up a little bit, and I'm gonna try to use them standard here, just to kind of carve out a couple more harsher lines. Again, now using some of the techniques, drawing and painting, whatever, just to kind of indicate a couple things here. Just working from all of these angles, I want to make sure there is enough structure here. All right. All right, so let's just kind of get some of the shapes of the hair. And I think that's good enough. Maybe let's just kind of pick a couple things just to kind of refine, or to, with the dam standard, very sharply just kind of pick up some points, or bring a little bit more contrast in some these areas, keeping just adding resolution, I guess, to resolving some areas, just so I can actually navigate through the whole piece in a more natural way. So this, doing accents, I guess that's the word I was trying to remember, and again, these are all concepts that it's very clear understood in the drawing and painting, which I've been developing a huge passion lately. That's why I keep thinking about those terms, but those terminologies just make more and more sense to me. A lot of those things I used to do already, but I just didn't really understand, or maybe I just looked at those things differently. But anyways, like, I'm trying to find a couple accents here and there just to kind of help me navigate some of these the piece. And one thing that I've started developing lately, or just experimenting with, is just this idea of cross hatching, or just kind of doing some of these textural effects when doing some of these sketches. And some of that becomes actually very interesting. It gets like interesting and different results, I guess, unexpected. And then a lot of drawings that I do enjoy, especially from different types of academies, or different types of schools, I should say, they do use some sort of, they do fill shadows like that. And again, can I bring some of that into 3D? Can I bring some of that into sculpture? Why not? Let's give it a shot. And again, just kind of indicating the presence of the lips there. Let's just kind of refine some of these forms here, picking out a couple areas to kind of add clay, remove clay, add sharpness, just kind of really resolving, adding more point of interest, I guess. All right, so this is cool. This is cool. I'm digging it. Yeah, I like it. I think that's, let's just see. Maybe this leg can be in a little bit more. Man, I really want to keep working. So let's just kind of break this. Just kind of, so this is going this way, and this way. All right. All right, I think this is good enough for today. I'm quite happy with how it's looking for first day. Let's just see. Yeah, maybe this is too much here. All right, but it's good practice to pause at a comfortable state and then come back another day with eyes rested. And I'm pretty sure just in a couple of hours, if I look at it again, I will see a lot of things that I want to change. But regardless, it was good exercise so far. So yeah, some angles are pretty cool. Uh, some of this gesture is feeling natural to me. I like how some of this is getting composed well. Um, it's good that it's important to find the wins and also find the mistakes. But I said that this the other day on my Instagram, how do you call that, community channel, whatever. Like, I was just painting and I realized that there were a couple of things that I did that I really liked, and obviously still a lot of things that I didn't like. But it's important to celebrate the wins as well. For celebrate the wins gives you momentum and courage to keep going and excitement to keep going, right? So lots of things here that I don't like, um, but there are a lot of things here that I do like, and I will look at both, and that's it. Let's see. Let's go back to me. There you go. There you go. Hope you guys liked today. Let me just see the chat real quick before we call it a night. Um, Talking about flow shapes and trying new stuff. Have you tried doing something more stylized in 3D? You are the best. Oh, thank you so much. I actually have done a couple more stylized pieces, and I've been doing some of them more lately as well. I guess there's still an aspect of stylized that I appreciate looking at, but I don't have a lot of desire in doing myself. But I do see a lot of value in exploring different styles for sure. And I've been trying a little bit of that here and there, um, from very, very stylized to, more exaggerated shapes to the, you know, yeah, yeah. Maybe I can bring here someone to talk about that more than me, like with more educated than me, but I do think it's important and I do enjoy doing those too. um is this guy from the old graphic studio pack? Love the model. I've done so many studies of him. Recognize the pose. Hey, Christoph. Yeah, for sure. I have the link in the description here of the pack that I'm using. And yeah, I've also done a lot of studies, a lot of drawings from this guy, and great reference. I recommend to everybody those packages. Uh, and great work, by the way. I was in your channel the other day too, watching stuff. Thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated, man. Uh, Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all you guys joining, chiming in today. Uh, there's a video dropping on Monday about sculpting on the iPad. I already recorded. It's uploaded, and trying to learn how to do the YouTube thing. But stay tuned for more. Probably next Wednesday, another live. I want to continue working on this piece. Uh, Sneak peek. I'm schedule more than 10 interviews with folks already. Gonna be not gonna talk too much about everything that I'm doing, but the next big thing that it's coming, it's a podcast, probably for next year. And I already have really big names scheduled and some really cool conversations. The other thing I want to continue doing and find time is portfolio reviews. And I want to try something new, which I call community or industry spotlight. I want to highlight upcoming artists, and I want to use this forum here, this platform, to uh, highlight people that needs the spotlight, right? Like, so maybe upcoming artists or artists that are not don't have a lot of exposure, or even maybe inviting people here to do portfolio breakdowns or portfolio artwork breakdowns, so they can walk you through the process of how to make those pieces. But not only my work, like they can bring their own work and do that. So hopefully I can turn this this channel here, or this community here, into something that we can all take something out of it, right? The last thing I want to mention, I really appreciate you all messaging me and commenting and sharing and all of that. I truly want to give back to this beautiful industry that we have, and I got so much out of this industry already in this kind of close to 20 years. And there's so much I still want to do and develop, and I want to learn and I want to participate. But at the same time, I also want to give back to the community. I want to help you out. I want to do something super, super cool. And I think this industry is lacking. So stay with me. I really appreciate you all joining and chiming in. Thank you so much, guys. Uh, Catch you guys later on the next one. See you later.